So did we call it or did we call it? Last week we talked about the stock market selling off. I posted a sell warning and I gave you guys levels to 360 as a potential support. Monday opened up today and we actually broke that support to the downside. So we're going to jump into what we expect to see throughout this upcoming week and give you guys a quick recap over the situation that we talked about last week. And you guys already know, if you guys watched the video, why we decided that we were going to be going short and why we expected to see a target at 360 on QQQQ or QQQ. And at the very end of this video, we're actually going to talk about a specific stock that has some pretty big news coming out here at the end of the week. So stick around and hopefully you guys find value and hopefully it helps you guys in terms of the decisions you make when you're trading or investing, and kind of the perspective on the market that we have to help you guys make better informative decisions. So let's go ahead and jump right on into it. I'm going to grab my drawing tool and we're going to talk about what we saw last week. We came up to this resistance level at 372. We were overbought and the market was converging to the downside. We gave you guys a sell warning saying that we're expecting the market to see a sell-off, and that's exactly what we said that we were going to see and what we saw. And we had this trend line here, this white line that's coming up. That is the one that we kept on bouncing at. Every time we came down, we bounced. Every time we came down, we bounced. So when we became overbought, that next reasonable level that we were expecting to see come down was going to be to this trend line. And that's that 360 zone that we actually saw break. And so that's going to be what we're going to be using to kind of predict what we're going to be expecting to see in this upcoming week. So let's go ahead and break down where we're at. We're here on the daily chart. We're looking at QQQ. So QQQ and SPY both pretty much react the same way. So if you look at the SPY chart, you're going to see pretty much the exact same patterns panning out. Not too much different. This is just the NASDAQ. SPY is the S&P 500. We trade the NASDAQ because when we're shorting, we jump into SQQQ, or when we're longing, we're jumping into TQQQ, which are inverse triple leveraged ETFs, which makes it a little bit easier for you to trade. So let's go ahead and talk about where we're at right now. So we saw that sell-off come down. We actually broke through this supporting trend line, which would have been that trend that we should be respecting. So if we would have bounced, we would have probably came back up to this 372 level and tested. However, since we broke below not only this trend line, but we were following this new trend line that we formed, we actually broke down to the downside. And so this next level that we're watching right over here is going to be this it's about, I would say, 357-ish. That's the general area that I'd be saying. 357, 358 is where we're at. And this is actually, the blue line is actually the exponential moving average. And so if on the bigger picture, on the daily chart or the 4-hour chart, regardless of what chart you're looking at, we want to see the EMA break to the downside for sell-off confirmation. So while this trend broke, and that's giving us that first level of confirmation, the fact that we're overbought is the second confluence that's helping us identify a sell plan, right? A short play here. And the MACD is actually selling off as well. We want to really see this exponential moving average break to the downside. If we break the exponential moving average to the downside, we break below it, right? That next level to the downside that we're expecting to see is going to be this level right over here. And that's that 337, 336 level. And it's actually a pretty strong support level that we've seen from past price action history, right? And so it actually aligns with this purple line, which is this 50-day simple moving average as well. And so all this combined, that's kind of the game plan that we're expecting. We really need to see a little more clarity before seeing more of a confirmed sell-off, right? And so that confirmation that we're going to be getting is going to be from this exponential moving average. So if we break below it, we're heading to 337, 336 zone. If we do bounce at it, that first level that we're going to expect is going to be this level right up here. So previous supports become new resistances. So this trend line is going to become a new resistance. So it's just going to be this general area that we've been looking at. So 370 would be that target to the upside. So if we break up to the upside, target's 370. If we break down to the downside below this exponential moving average, our target's going to be 337, 336. And also this this simple moving average, that 50-day simple moving average. What do I expect to see happen? So from the MACD, from the RSI, and just from the general price action and the fundamentals, which we're going to go over some of the key economic data that's been released and it's going to be released and what's going on this week. I personally think that we're going to probably see more of a sell-off. Again, this is not financial advice. This is just what I see from a technical standpoint, and just what I'm piecing together. So you guys draw your own conclusions, but last week we made that same prediction, I guess you could say, and that's actually what panned out. This week, that's pretty much what I'm expecting. I'm expecting us to break below this exponential moving average on the daily chart and start seeing a sell-off to the 336, 337 zone. Is it all going to happen this week? I don't know. Nobody really knows. Nobody has a crystal ball, but that's kind of what we're expecting. Now, on the contrary, again, if we do bounce at this level and see a return to the upside, that 372 previous resistance is going to be that new resistance to the upside. So take profit zones would be that 337 zone, and to the upside, it would be 372. So that's kind of the game plan, what I'm expecting to see with QQQ. Pretty much you're going to see the same thing on the 4-hour chart. This is the daily chart. We do a top-down analysis. On the 4-hour chart, we're probably going to see a very similar situation. We are more so oversold here than overbought, just from the technicals. If you guys are looking at the RSI and the MACD, we're actually more so on this oversold side on the 4-hour chart, which is what we're saying that, why we want to pay attention to that EMA, that blue line that we just talked about, because we're so oversold here on the 4-hour, there is potential for us to make that return to the upside. So that's why we look at multiple timeframes to give us a better idea. If we break below it, we're going to head lower. But because the 4-hour is so oversold, there's potential for us to see a bounce, or consolidation. So that's going to be the real confirmation that we're going to see in terms of a sell-off, a bigger sell-off, right? If you guys are locked in profits, congrats. Hopefully these videos help you guys make better informative decisions in terms of your trades or investments. But in terms of what we're looking at, 4-hour chart, we are more so on the oversold side. So it wouldn't be surprising to see a bounce at that exponential moving average. What do I think is more likely that we're going to see happen? I think that we're probably going to see some consolidation around that exponential moving average, and then possibly a continuation for a sell-off, right? In terms of a smaller time frame than a 4-hour, let's go ahead and jump into that. That way you guys can have a picture of everything. Looking at the 1-hour, again, very similar to the 4-hour on the oversold side. MACD starting to converge a little bit. So consolidation or a bounce possible. I would probably say more so a consolidation at that level and potentially a sell-off. But, it really, nobody can tell how long this is going to take. It's just from the big picture. The daily chart really tells you the grand picture of kind of what we're expecting to see. Every time we were overbought, we saw a pretty serious sell-off. Right here, we were overbought. We actually saw a sell-off. From this point on, we were overbought, saw a sell-off to the downside, became extremely overbought here because we've been pretty much on a rally for the last 2 to 3 months. We were consolidating and on a rally, and we still have this gap right over here that we need to fill. So a drop down to here would fill that gap. We'd possibly find a bounce here and head right back up, if we don't get any other negative catalyst that's going to drive the market lower. But that's what we're expecting with QQQ and the overall market. Now let's go ahead and jump into some of the quick. Let's go ahead and jump into the economic data that is going to be released for this week. So today we didn't really have much going on Monday. Tomorrow on Tuesday, we have building permits being released. We also have core durable good orders for month over month for the month of May. That's going to be a big one. That's going to move the markets. So it wouldn't be surprised if this performs worse than expected, that it's going to kind of aid the market sell-off that we're already seeing. And then we also have CB consumer confidence for the month of June, new home sales and new home sales month over month, and then just regular new home sales. And that's on Tuesday. Wednesday, what we have is the Fed chair speaking again. So last week that didn't go too well. Every time he spoke, we saw more selling. And that happened last week on Wednesday and Thursday before the House and the Senate. This week we have him speaking once again, and again it's on Wednesday and Thursday. So first day is going to be on Wednesday here. He's going to be speaking. And then we have crude oil inventories. And then that's pretty much, and then, well, he's going to speak again in the evening as well. And then on Thursday, he's going to be talking again, I believe. I think this one is actually going to be for Thursday, going into Thursday. So GDP Q quarter over quarter for Thursday is going to be released. Initial jobless claims and continuing jobless claims. Those are our usuals. Pending home sales month over month for the month of May on Thursday. And Friday, we have core PCE price index being released. And pretty much that's pretty much all that we're going to be seeing for Friday. So a bit of a busy week here for economic data. Again, we paused rates. If you guys aren't aware, the Fed paused rates. So that's kind of what started drawing the market to the downside. And then the Fed kind of speaking during the House committee and the Senate committee, and reiterating kind of the reasons why he did that and kind of the economic state of the economy, that really pushed the market a little bit lower. And so, again, that's what we're expecting. We're expecting more downside here down to this 336, 337 zone, and then possibly a bounce here. It really depends on how the economic data is going to come in this week, but that's kind of what we're expecting. Now to the big news that's being released with one of the stocks that our members are watching. We've been on watch. Well, we've been trading this particular stock for the last about month and a half. So we've caught quite a bit of moves, but there's still more to come, in my opinion, and I'll tell you guys why. So on the 29th of this month, which is going to be, I think it's going to be on Thursday. Let me double check. Yeah, so on Thursday, Virgin Galactic is actually planning on launching their first commercial flight mission, right? Now, a couple things you might be looking at this chart and saying, well, it looks like we've already saw that spike. And you're right, we did, but the reason for the sell-off is not what you think, right? So the reason for the sell-off is they actually announced that they're going to be selling more shares to raise capital to expand their fleet of aircrafts. And so that's pretty much kind of what started drawing that selling pressure after we saw that initial spike. Now, you might be like, oh, well, this might not be a great opportunity. And it might not be for some, but let me tell you a couple of reasons why I'm particularly looking at this stock and what I see value in it for. So the initial announcement is when we actually saw that initial spike. And then it pretty much, that was the first day of the hype when they announced that they're going to be doing that flight. And then it kind of sold off after a lot of people started taking profit right up here after it spiked initially, because that was about a 50% move. And then we saw a recovery, and then we saw that announcement come out about them raising capital and selling more shares, which in essence is just going to dilute the shares that already exist. And so that's kind of why we started seeing selling. One thing I do want you guys to know is we actually saw a gap form right over here that does need to get filled. So that is one reason for you guys to consider this as a potential opportunity, right? Because that gap will get filled eventually. And so now let's talk about some of the kind of the elements to this, right? So the first thing is we're not extremely overbought. So when we were overbought, we actually saw that sell-off happen. We as a team actually locked in profits as well. We waited for the selling to happen. And we were actually expecting to see a bounce a little bit sooner, to be honest. But we haven't, because we didn't really expect them to announce that they're going to be selling more shares. Nobody really expected that. But I must say that they did choose a pretty good time to announce that, because now they're having a lot of chatter about them launching, right? Which gets people excited. And while they announced that they're going to be selling more shares, it didn't have as much of an impact versus if they would have done that before they announced their first flight. Now, they still haven't even done their first flight, right? So we've seen kind of a pullback here after that announcement. And then on Thursday, we're going to see that flight. So if you guys want to see what happened the last time that they did a flight, and it wasn't even a commercial flight, right? This was just test flights. I'll zoom out into a bigger time frame for you guys so that you guys can kind of see where price action actually went. And this was a little while back, but the stock did react in this particular way, right? So initially, when they started testing, these big spikes up to $62 and 57 were when they were testing these specific flights, right? They were testing their aircrafts. They haven't even launched a flight, right? And so right now they're actually launching their first flight. And so as you guys can see, we're extremely oversold in the grand scheme of things, right? The price has not been lower than this since the open, right? The price IPO'd at pretty much, I think it was like 10, 12 bucks. And so now we're at 298. So you're at an extremely discounted window here for this particular stock. So that's on the weekly chart for you guys, just to understand where the stock has been and the potential for profit that this particular stock has, right? So we're looking at about, let me go grab a measuring tool. We're looking at about, if we come back to that all-time high, we're looking at about 1,200%, 1,212%, back to $62. Now, is it going to go to $62? I don't think it's going to be happening right now, so don't get too excited. But do I expect this to come back up to this general zone where we've been at, around this $10, $12 zone? Absolutely. And just to move up to that would be about 200%. And so, again, I'm not saying that this is happening tomorrow or on Thursday when they do their first flight, but in the grand scheme of things, I do anticipate that there's a lot of upside potential for this particular stock. And since they're raising money, they're obviously planning on expanding. I think they already have their flights sold out. For their first couple commercial flights already sold out. So they're doing very well. And in the grand scheme of things, I do anticipate that getting in around that $298 to $3 zone would not be, or $298 to about $498, maybe $5 is not a bad deal to get in, considering that the price can probably rally to that 60 zone once this takes off, right? So I think Thursday is going to be a big day. I hope you guys pay attention to this particular stock. There might be some massive opportunities. When we started paying attention to it, we were looking at it around 298 when we were extremely oversold. And so that's when we started catching these little moves to the upside. We are heading back down to this more so oversold side. We aren't there yet. So, do your due diligence and invest and trade at your discretion. The team is going to be kept up to date on the trading floor every single day. But for you guys that are just watching, make your own decisions. But I just wanted to share the opportunity, the potential for profit, what's going on with the company. They are launching their first flight on the 29th, and then they have their second commercial flight already scheduled and planned as well for the following month, I believe. So they're going to be starting to take off these flights quite often. And I think once they have even their first successful flight, I think there's going to be a lot of excitement around it. So I hope you guys pay attention to it. Just wanted to share what we're paying attention to, a pretty exciting stock that has tremendous opportunity, whether you're trading or investing. So hopefully this video was helpful for you guys. Make sure to smash that like button to this video if you guys found value in it. Subscribe. We do these videos every single Monday night. Monday and Friday, we release 2 videos a week. Usually Fridays are either a quick lesson, a speech, an important news event that happened, and then Mondays are usual market recaps and market prep for the upcoming week. So hopefully you guys enjoy these kind of videos. Make sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on next week's Stock Talk video.